Hi there, in this video I'm going to continue talking about the requirements of the project. In the previous two videos we talked about how to correct the errors and how to create a table including the sales variable cost and contribution margin, and in this video we will continue talking about the contribution margin. So here we create a new sheet. We call it question 3, and then we take the insurance type and try to create more fields here in the left-hand side. So we make a new field called count, and here we get count function for the invoice. And this option will help me to get the insurance number by the insurance policies by their numbers. And then we make another one for average contribution margin. And here we get AVG function for contribution margin. So after creating these two variables, we select sales, then variable cost, contribution margin, and count. And then we drag the 4 elements and put them in the table. And they look like this way. And we sort out the columns. So first we put sales, then variable cost, then contribution margin, then average contribution margin and count. And we start highlighting each column to format it. So for the first 4 columns, we do the same format where we go for currency custom for each one of them. And contribution margin, the same. The only column that we don't touch is the count, which shows the number of insurance policy in each insurance type. So now we did the third requirement. Let us try to visualize it in the next sheet. So we duplicate it and rename it Q3 graph. And here we remove all the measurement names. Okay, and we start selecting the items one by one. So we put sales, then contribution margin, average contribution margin, and count. The only item we drop it off is the variable cost, because in this requirement we talk about contribution margin only. And then we take insurance type into color to change their color. Then we press T to get their amounts. And then we move the color pane. And as you can see here, things start become clear. So we have sales section, contribution margin, average contribution margin, and count. So now we did the third requirement. Let us do the next one. So here we create a new page, Q4. And we try to create here the contribution margin ratio. So we go for CM ratio, where we get sum of contribution margin over sum sales. And here, since it says the calculation is valid, we're going the right way. And in this requirement, we try to get the average, the contribution margin ratio for each insurance type. So we put the insurance type here, and then contribution margin ratio, and then format the contribution margin ratio, percent, and then 0 decimal. So now we're done. And here we can sort the table either descending or ascending by the contribution margin ratio. And you can tell that life insurance has the highest contribution margin ratio while auto has the lowest. Now we need to make the same table graphically. So we duplicate it and go for Q4 graph. And here we remove the contribution margin ratio and we put it on the column. And then we take the insurance type into color section. Then we create labels and move the color plate into the left side, and here the way it should be. So now we try to analyze each insurance type by their contribution margin ratio. We need to do the same, but for each state. So we create a new sheet, and this will be question 5. And here we put state, and then contribution margin ratio, reformat it, percentage to decimals, sorry, 0 decimal. And then we make it graphically. And we call it Q5 graph. And here we remove it and put it in the column. Then state will go into the color, create labels, move the color plate into the left side, and this is the way it should be. Requirement 6. We do the same, but for each region. So rename Q6. We create region here in the column, and then contribution margin here. Try to format it where we put percent, 0 decimal, and then we make graph. Q6 graph, where we take the contribution margin ratio here, and then we take region, put it in the color section, create label for the bars, move the color plate into the left side. So this can tell you that question 4, 5, and 6 are talking about analysis of contribution margin ratio by insurance type, state, and region. I will stop here and I will continue explaining the requirements in another video. Thank you so much, and I hope you find this video useful.